Yeah. So it is a great, if nothing else, it's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
Like I said, the same way like past lives, real or not, it's a great model because people totally buy into it.
Exactly what you said. Real or not, it gives somebody some sort of vehicle to get something beneficial from it, right?
Right.
Laughter dances with truth in mostly fictional tales, where reality and fantasy engage in a tango. Hello and welcome to Mostly Fictional Tales. I am thrilled to have Joel Elfman, my favorite hypnotist, back on the show. Joel is here to demystify the captivating world of public hypnosis shows. Ever wondered how those hypnotists work their magic up on stage? Well, Joel will break down the techniques, share insights, and reveal the psychology behind the art of hypnosis.
Now, here's the interesting thing, like for me, as a mostly helping people change habits, like I have this love-hate relationship, right, with stage hypnosis. Because on one hand, it shows people how powerful their imagination is, right? Here you are taking on this totally different persona, acting in this totally amazing way. And it took, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. On the other hand, the typical way, right, it's presented is that the hypnotist is controlling the person. Right? What is really true, again, is that the person is allowing themselves to take on the suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't want to take on the suggestions, they would not be there. So part of what a stage hypnotist does is they're testing the audience, bits of the audience beforehand, or maybe even during the show, and seeing who's most suggestible. And also, if you notice, at times there's people on stage there who did some bits, right, of acting under hypnosis, and then they just leave them there in their chair in a trance and don't use them again, because at some point they didn't act out as fully as the other people, or they started to look like they were hesitating or something else was going on, right? So they left them there on the stage because they didn't want to take them away necessarily. But then they worked with a smaller subset of people who were really willing to fully, express themselves to make it a good
again
show.
this is something you're talking about, stagecraft, for like hypnosis performances, right? It's the stagecraft. It comes back to kind of cold reading. It is basically, I'm going to toss 20 things out there, I'm going to see who perks up at one of these 20 things, and then they're coming up on stage because I see that they might be somebody who's eager to play in and be part of the show.
And they're giving me these broader signals that's easier for me to read than somebody else. So I want that person up on stage. Like, I'm not here to work for a reaction. I'm here to notice the biggest view of the reaction, at least for me, so I can concentrate on making it a better show for everyone else. There's a YouTube video of a young hypnotist, and he's on like Santa Monica Pier or something with these two twin girls, college or high school or something. And one of them is following his suggestions great. The other one's kind of half and half, right? So so what's going on? He says, well, you got to believe. So if I tell you your foot is stuck to the floor, you take that on, really believe it. And then it shows for a couple minutes, like her foot is seems to be really stuck to the floor of the pier, right? To the dock. And then she starts to let that go again. Starts to come back to more of her normal belief set. And once again, like you can see that the suggestion is not as strong.
Mm,
The other twin is totally willing to buy in the whole time.
interesting.
Right?
That's
Doesn't say so. It's not about and it's not about intelligence levels, right? It's really how willing are you to take on, to feel comfortable enough with yourself, or for whatever reason, maybe you just, what, I desperately need to work on this, so I'm just letting certain things go and really willing to step into this. So for whatever reason, I'm willing to take this on, or I'm more open to trying stuff out, to playing with this stuff, to exploring, and go for it. Those are the people who are just better to work with, easier to work with, and better to work with. They'll get better results because they were more willing to try this on. And all of this stuff a lot of times is we're trying in small pieces.
I see how it's really helpful, and when you have somebody who comes to you seeking help breaking some habit that they've decided they don't want to be bound by anymore, that they and having this tool about giving them a trance state to unpack that and to wire in an exit to these negative thoughts or these negative loops of behaviors that they've already decided they don't want to be a prisoner to it anymore.
And yes, but at the same token, right, it's like, I'm only willing to go so far. So you're always pacing the person. You don't want them tightening up, running away from the thing, right? You want to keep them on that edge of what's comfortable, or the edge of just being a little bit uncomfortable and willing to still stretch themselves, try it on. And that is going to be a variable for everybody, right? Somebody's going to be willing to take on 1%, or a half percent, or a quarter%, and
Mm-hmm.
someone's willing to take on 2% or 5% or 50%. But again, whatever it is, that's great. And then we still have to end up practicing it to build it into the system so it's available.
Curious.
Right. Otherwise, it's just like, oh yeah, all right. I imagine being really confident and going over and talking to that person, and then you go over and talk to the person, and the person just talk to the hand, and then you get upset
Yeah.
with yourself, them, with the situation, whatever it is. You go kind of slinking off back to your table, and your friends are making fun of you or whatever. Or someone who's gotten comfortable with it, talk to the hand. Okay, hand, how you doing? They'll try and have fun with it. And if not, then they're just going to go over to the next person
Okay.
and try and talk to them. So they're no longer like, there's no this guilt, shame, all this stuff, right? It's not part of that pattern anymore. Now, I'm not saying they can't meet somebody who, like, oh my God, that triggers, you know, some other unresolved thing. Well, they look like my, their voice or something, some gesture reminds me of this person who used to yell at me all the time. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, now I'm kind of back, being uncomfortable and not being into that confident
Mm-hmm.
version of myself because of this old memory. So then that's just, then we have to know, okay.
So earlier
Like,
we were talking about Charlie, and Charlie was recounting a dream, and so where we're watching his physical things,
right.
manifesting the recreation of that dream. Was he in a trance state at that time that you were all working with him or talking with him or?
He's yes, to my mind, yes. Now, again, the standard version of a trance state, or what way I'm seeing
Hmm.
a trance state. Right?
So
He
you're
again, he's
including.
literally telling me with his, he's in, like some people say, every emotion is a trance.
Hmm.
Because when I'm happy, I'm seeing the world one way. When I'm sad or angry, I'm seeing the world another way. So this is a person where literally, again, they're seeing the pictures, and their head is moving, to picture, at the speed. Now they don't even know that their head's moving, probably, right? But
Mm-hmm.
but they're giving us these cues.
And those cues are important to pick up on anxieties that somebody may not be clearly communicating to you that hey, this is actually the problem that they if they had less anxiety about this thing, then it would unravel the thing they feel trapped by.
Again, stand up, move with it, show me a gesture, breathe differently, move your head in a different, totally different way. And again, it doesn't come up. Now, still the question, is it, if they go back, is it going to is it going to be triggered? So we played in enough ways, in different ways, and brought some more positives in, and imagine yourself breathing differently, and all these other elements. Imagine yourself being, more relaxed, at ease, or protected, or safe, or like, no, I can't allow this to happen, or some other attitude. So we can actually break the linkage. Or did we just find ways to subvert it and bring it someplace else? So
Whatever works to get to the end goal is somebody wanting relief from a particular thing. So if it's a
right, I mean, ultimately we want to get it to change. Sorry, to get them to change enough, like they can be in that situation and be resourceful in a different way than they were before. Because when the person was describing this, they're feeling terror come up.
Mm-hmm.
So now can they still see the pictures and think of something different? Whereas, okay, you can start that, but now you know what? Like, I don't keep on sitting here and in this particular way.
Now remember, I'm a complete dummy, and I don't always know what I'm talking about. And by that I mean almost never do I actually know what I'm talking about. But how does this relate to research being done with and therapy that they're trying with veterans with PTSD who are in who also then they give them like micro doses of psilocybin, like magic mushroom,
again,
right?
So
Is that different?
I don't know that much. Well, it's creating some, it's creating some change in the synapses.
Okay.
So typically, as far as I understand, and again, it's so while we have to change, do it in this very mechanical way potentially, that may just be breaking the synapses in a different way. And I don't know what the mix of what are they telling the person, what are they having visualize or say.
Mm-hmm.
So what other elements are they having? They're just having random experiences. But that somehow are going to break some of these links, really altering the brain chemistry enough, and some it's allowing it to reconnect. Well, listen, if I had a choice of reconnecting in trauma or reconnecting to something that's different and doesn't create trauma, well, why not?
Yeah.
Because again, it goes down. I'm getting away from the pain and I'm moving towards something feeling better, and it seems to be pretty easy to do. But I don't know. I mean, I'm really not up on that research. So now, typically the things for PTSD have been, EMDR is the most famous one. So when I'm reliving this experience, my eyes are moving in specific places.
Okay.
I'm seeing a picture up here, and my eyes are jutting up here where I'm seeing a sound, blah, blah, blah. Right? So one of the things with EMDR was, okay, now as you're thinking about that thing, just follow my finger. So you're breaking the patterns of the eye movement. And since they started that, they've added other stuff with adding sounds and adding gestures and other elements to it. But that was the heart of EMDR, as far as I understand it.
This may be only tangentially related to what we're talking about, but there's a fellow who pitched at a venture capital meeting that I attended by Zoom in the last 2 months. And he's got a company that is developing a therapeutic regiment, exercise and package for ADHD and other attention deficit disorders, where they put the person in a VR goggle and they see a forest, that they're inside a forest, but then they put them on a bicycle or a pedal machine, and that links up to taking them on a rail through this forest, which gives them a physical activity to attach to a new mental or visual input that apparently has some really good therapeutic efficacy beyond it.
So some of HDHD is about, and again, um, my personal take on it, and again, I am not a doctor in any way, and regardless, I think it's an overdiagnose. It's overdiagnosed.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
I mean, people diagnose themselves all the time.
Oh, yep, yep, yep.
We are in a world where there's so much stimulation, and we're trying to track it all. And so our evolution hasn't caught up fully with the ability to track all this stuff, or to keep our attention on one thing, which is where we are most successful. When we slow down and we're in that moment, just working on this one thing, we get incredible results. And if we're pulled in five directions, results we're getting is not, is not as often, is not as strong. So that's one thing with ADHD. So yeah, I mean, there've been, some people was working. There was a hypnotist who was putting people on bicycles, and the physical activity was creating the trance. Now, first of all, aerobic activity. So there's a book called Spark. I can't remember the author off the top of my head. Very well-known book. Showed that having these high school students do some intense activity first thing in the morning before they got their classes increased their learning by 20% or something. To that effect. Right. So that the exercise actually creates certain growth hormones, right? Brain growth hormones that really can help strengthen learning. So there's that aspect to the physical. And again, how it relates, like how some of these other aspects relate to ADHD, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But again, the more we can ground people, in their center, in their core, change their breathing, the more relaxed they are, the more easier it is to do a task. And some of that, again, is a practice, right? Okay. This is what, like when I'm centered. Oh, I'm starting to get distracted. Okay. Come back.
Okay. Interesting.
Centered. Oops, I'm getting distracted again. Come back. The more I practice being centered, the better I get at it. And also, the way I work with my clients, we start to get better about noticing how I get distracted, the smaller and smaller signals, so I can catch it faster before I'm all over the place. Right? And then, okay, how much can I come back and ground? Because, look, we're always changing, always experience. Anyone who wants to be confident all the time is bullshit.
Yeah.
If you want to be confident all the time, great. That means you never want to feel sexy. You never want to feel laughter. I mean, I'm not saying that laughter and confidence can't exist, but I'm saying, they're a mixed state. I'm just totally laughing, then I'm not confident. Or I'm not aware that confidence is not part of what I'm experiencing. Not saying it can't be easily accessible, but no one's in one state all the time, or can be in one state. We're riding this roller coaster we call life. How can I ride the roller coaster with more control?
Yeah.
Or more, at least being more centered, more able to handle the curves and the dips, when they come up.
I can see that what you're saying would be very valuable for anyone on the internet who happens to see my mostly fictional tales.
So my take is resiliency over perfection. Okay. Fell off the wagon. Okay.
All right. Fair enough.
Like, how do we get back on?
You life coach as well as doing, and hypnosis is kind of a tool in your bag. How does your work as a life coach kind of synergize
To me, I,
and
I
connect
just
with it?
regarded it as all mixed. So if someone wants to do a more formal, again, more formal hypnosis, that's great. I've done past life regressions. I've done
Hmm.
energy work at times. For me, it's always about solving problems. Like what's going on in their life, or how do you want to be better? How can we make you more resourceful, more resilient? That always the question. But whether, again, some of the stuff is just done, but that's not saying it isn't maybe it's a bit a light trance in conversation. As long as you're aware, as long as you're connecting new dots, as long as you're bringing in new information, right? Or trying something out, testing, playing, all this. Like, how deep does the trance have to be? Deeper trance can make it easier to get out of our own way, to slow things down. But again, if you or I are in sync and you're just doing it with me, I don't need you knocked out. You need you like, I exaggerate and I make fun of it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, great way. This is absolutely a great way to work, and you're just taking in suggestions. I like having people usually more aware because I'm hearing from them. I'm getting more direct feedback, and I'm seeing more of what's going on. I can see like, oh, you're taking that in. Your body's
Hmm.
flowing with this movement. You're showing me that confidence, in your system. Great. Versus, I'm telling you to become. Imagine yourself more and more confident. Like, but I don't know what's going on. You know,
You've actually kind of masterfully brought me into what my next topic was going to be. What was techniques and methods that you use? You mentioned energy. I'm guessing that's basically you feel your body full of the negative stuff, and then you want to imagine yourself having
well,
an influx of stuff that clears it out, and you want to systematically allow somebody to feel it go away from their chest, go away from their fingers, go away from their ears, that kind of thing, right?
yeah. So I mean, I've done real Reiki and a couple of different energy modalities. So it's fascinating to see some of that stuff. We are a bioenergetic system, right? We have a magnetic or electric field around us, and all this stuff. So how much is real and how much is not? There's still research that says, oh, if you sleep with a cell phone under your pillow or something, you're gonna, those waves from there are gonna affect your head, your brain power. And again, it's gonna take time and all of that. So, but some people may be more susceptible than others. Are past lives real or not? I don't know.
But as a vehicle to like get somebody toward a trance state, the relaxation of replace this energy with good energy kind of thing is a
Yeah. So it is a great, if nothing else, it's a great metaphor.
yeah.
Like I said, the same way like past lives, real or not, it's a great model because people totally buy into it. It's like
Exactly what you said, real or not. It gives somebody some sort of vehicle to get something beneficial from it, right?
right. So I
Yeah.
do believe in a certain amount to of energy work, or to that energy work can have effect. We know, see it from qigong and other things, and we can feel it in our body. And some of it is probably just metaphoric, but it's
Hmm.
a brilliant, brilliant model.
But if it works, don't
Right?
break it.
Again, it works. And
If it
again,
works, don't
like
break it.
using our body engages different parts of our brain. And the earliest studies on visualization in the 80s or something, 70s, 80s, shooting basketballs. People who imagined shooting basketballs were as successful as people who shot basketballs.
Kind of like that they're putting they're imagining what the correct motion is for
Right.
to create that
Right. And
arc
actually,
so
their
that it can
body is
go.
doing it in micro movements. Right. Their body's actually kind of mimicking what's going
Yeah,
on.
your brain
Now,
is
they
a
found the most successful was when you did both.
yeah. So like when somebody is doing that's it's helping the brain in the planning of the physical motions and stepping it through in a very specific
You're,
sequence so that
you're
you get the
building,
basket.
right, you're building muscle memory,
Yeah.
even though they didn't even do it physically.
Our brains are such a weird wibbly wobbly and mishy mashy of connections and stuff.
And you look, I
Yeah.
mean, we look at all these athletes who have visualization coaches. A visualization coach, it's the same thing, it's trance. To my mind, at least, it's no different. Now, again, we might make some measurements or some particular techniques might be a little bit different, but in a broad scale, guided meditation, to my mind, trance, hypnosis, different. It might be doing different things with it. You know, the white unicorn comes up and carries you off or something,
I don't know.
whatever.
Depending upon the person, that might be the imaginative thing that brings them into the what gives them the benefit from that, right?
Exactly. Or the unicorn whispers like the important message in their ear. It's like, oh my God, of course. You know, we don't know. And the fascinating is like it happened. And the other part that's fascinating, healing. Right? We know there's all these people who have visualized themselves to heal. And the fascinating part is how the hell does the brain translate a metaphor into being able to turn on the right DNA or
Mm-hmm.
RNA to create that healing process?
Yeah, the epigenetics that are involved in that, something that gets triggered by an environmental effect, or essentially you could lump that into environmental effects. That your brain imagining this is giving you the right releasing of other ancillary memories that are giving you little bits of dopamine
There's
or
a
little
guy who
bits of serotonin and
yeah, there's a guy who broke his hand. So martial artist, and you imagine these this horde of little guys coming in and rebuilding the bone brick by brick.
mm-hmm.
Well, he healed about 3 times faster than normal, but his hand was a little stiff. It was stiff.
Yeah.
They had to go back in and visualize these guys going back in and working on it again.
Yeah, that,
To loosen it up so he could get it right. But still, he accelerated healing 3 times.
just kind of semi-related to that, but not one that I can. Back in May of 2010, I was working as a cinematographer, videographer on a Cinco de Mayo concert. And I went to go set up a shot of the lead guitarist and went to put my camera braced on the PA at the bottom of the stage. Well, in that crouch, my foot slipped over the side and I went tumbling over and fell 5 feet down to the concrete parking lot, and broke 5 of my vertebrae. I broke the transverse processors on my L1 through L5, and so although that could have been worse, the doctor had said, this is something that's related to adrenaline. We see these kind of breaks because where you broke your transverse processors, that's right in the middle of your meat melon here, your meat trunk. It's hard to break that. And he says, but we see this with athletes who go to chase a ball or to go catch something. They put on this burst of energy and their muscles pull so tight that the muscles break do the breaking. That the person will be running on a field, nothing, boom, break, and they've got fractures all up and down these things.
So it's interesting. So the woman whose course I was taking, she says she worked with somebody who would literally not only do past lives, but past lives in the body. The body experience of past lives. Now, again, we can speak all kind of doubtful, but when they were
if it works for
testing.
somebody, I think that
They,
comes right
they were
back to,
testing,
hey, if it works, then use that tool for that
but
patient.
again, they were testing mice, right? And they made mice afraid of the color yellow,
Oh,
and it
okay.
lasted for 7 generations.
Wow, like that. Okay. That wow. That's
So
some
how does that
epigenetics going
program
on.
in? And again, it's like, wow, you act just like Grandma, you know, Annette, and you never met her.
Really?
Like how does stuff like that show up? And again, there's all sorts of stuff of transgenerational, trauma and all sorts of stuff like, is it, so we can energetic, it's spiritual, is like what is going on here. So again, I tend to be a skeptic with some of that.
Hmm.
And on the all
I,
hands, like,
I I would be as well.
but on one hand, I'm also open. Like, okay, show me, like,
Show me the
uh,
data.
show me the data. Show me kind of how that works.
Show me the data, and let's bear in mind we don't really know everything there is. I mean, there are some
Well,
things that we can be very confident that are not correct, but
Rupert,
but we need to know. Hey, the brain is weird.
yeah, it is. Rupert Sheldrake is a very famous scientist who's explored telepathy and other stuff. So he would have people receive phone calls, and he would have to guess whether it was a family member or a friend or some stranger. And they were, I think, if I remember correctly, fairly far above statistical norm in guessing when it was a family member or friend.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, the
is there
skeptic in me
some?
wants to know. Okay, is there? There's the thing about the smart horse Hans who could count, and it came down to that there were cues the testers were giving the horse so that the horse would know when to stop stamping his foot. Kind of
Right,
thing.
but on the other
But
hand,
yeah,
you
that's
got
hard. It's really hard to ignore that if somebody took good data and that they controlled for those kind of factors, and it's possible that they do. It's kind of
well, you
hard
know
to
what?
see when
And
something's
again, you
statistically
got quantum
insignificant.
entanglement, and there's tons of stories from hypnosis where couples driving down the road and on a strange road, and the kid says, no, you got to stop, insists on it, insists they go into the farmhouse, and insists they dig under the floorboard, and they come up with this jar of coins or money, money that coins that are valuable, whatever. So like
Hmm.
how is that true?
Or is it a happy memory that they had from whenever, right?
You know,
Or
again, there's a
wishful
very famous
thinking.
story, documented story in Journal of Medicine, I think from 59, in 59, where this kid had also skin was black and cracking and all these issues, and they tried skin grafts on him and nothing was taking. Well, the anesthesiologist studied some hypnosis. So he suggests to the surgeon, well, why don't you try hypnosis? And the surgeon's like, you go ahead and do it. Look, I had worked on warts. He says, all right,
Hmm.
let me try it. And literally one arm is the same and one arm is going to be the test. And I don't know the number of sessions. I don't remember the number of sessions. And the skin became pink and regular, one arm, and then shows the surgeon after some point. Surgeon's like freaking out because it wasn't warts, it was ichthyosis, which is a genetic skin condition,
Interesting.
right? And yet, once again, we come here like, how did the brain figure out, right, to change the, you know, turn on the RNA that turned
Yeah.
on the DNA that now produced healthy skin?
Interesting.
And I mean, they went on to do more work together. But
No, there's a.
so here's the fun part: the anesthesiologist had problems doing the work, and also struggled with, like anyone in the future, because he's like, no, this shouldn't work. Like, I don't believe this. Like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
internal doubts made it difficult for him to do the work.
Then we get to well, how do we replicate these results in other people? And it gets into a very deep, kind of researcher type of mindset.
Well, let me say this: is like each person is going to be unique and individual, right? There are
Mm-hmm.
principles to all this, and but the way I need to work with you, the visualization, the metaphor, even some of the processes, and some of the elements of the processes might be very different for you and for someone else. So we've really got to tailor it to the person. What is going to help you make you feel comfortable, help you be resourceful, help you see or experience things differently. So again, myths. I can control people's minds. Again, they've done tests. So literally, oh, all right, here we're going to have you imagine shooting somebody, and some people was like, "Well, I knew it wasn't real. I'll go pull the trigger on the fly
The
down."
Manchurian candidate has a big,
Well, again,
yeah.
brainwashing, where you're subjecting the person to multiple sources and over time is different than hypnosis.
Okay.
We have to draw a line here. You're working with one person over X number of sessions. And again, if I can create a good enough story, there are stories of hypnotists or con men, whoever convinced people to give up, sign away fortunes.
However, there are a lot of con men who are perfectly able at getting people to sign away
Yeah, but
money
they told a
that they
story that
didn't
put the
need
person.
hypnosis to do it. So,
They put. No, wait a second. Let's argue. We can have this this kind of conversation. They put people in a trance where they bought into the story that the con man or woman was telling.
well, we did talk a little bit about the timeshare sales meetings.
Right.
They're putting somebody into a mindset and then trying to keep them
Look
focused
at
on vacation and whatnot.
look at all this advertising. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like, wait a second, your midlife crisis, right? All of a sudden, I've convinced you, like buying this Ferrari is going to get you that 20-year-old, young hot 20-year-old.
You know what? The best hypnosis in that case would be to remind them that 20-year-olds are a pain in the ass, and that no, you don't really want that.
But for some people, it's like, but again, it depends on your value set, right? For some
Okay.
people, it's like, that young, attractive person, oh, yeah, okay, I'll put up with the crazy, with the crazy or the mismatch to have these other
To have
things.
that experience, I guess.
Well, so again, it's and then I mean, this stories, and then they came back. It's like, oh, I had these plans. It really wasn't what like the fantasy I built in my head. Now I'm going to try and reestablish the relationship. And again, how much of this is true and how much of it is myth,
Yeah, yeah.
it depends, and it can be both, right? For some people, they could have that all that happened in that way, and for other people, it's like whatever. It's like they went on to do something
Let's see
to
if we
do
can dig
something.
into something specific here.
So
Memorable.
again, so it's like there's nothing devil related, like for a
Okay.
long time, like hypnosis was a devil's thing.
Oh yeah.
And Christian scientists are rail against it. Well, yeah, if you're trying to hypnotize, because church is as much a trance as anything else.
Yeah, it is.
So
You're
if
right.
you're why
Mm-hmm.
would you want someone else who's experienced in
Well,
trance?
that's competition. They're just upset that they got competition.
Exactly. Well, yes, that's how I was going. It is kind of competition, but what's fascinating? At a certain point, now I don't know when it started, there started becoming Christian hypnotists,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who they would, would use those, could put that element or have people feel comfortable in that context. So you're a hypnotist, but you're a Christian hypnotist. You're working in this particular way, or with these particular sets of beliefs, or whatever it is. Said, okay, now I can be comfortable with it.
Yeah. The trust factor. Somebody
Right.
that's seeking help with something. it's helpful if they trust the person they're getting help from, right?
You have to trust. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a big factor. You have to trust a certain amount of comfort, or you know what? Well, I know he's an expert, so you don't even have to like him. You don't be comfortable with him, but I know they're an expert, and I know that things they're going to tell me are going to be really helpful. So that
Yeah. So,
but if you want to see really interesting stuff, Milton Erickson was the first person to get hypnosis accepted by the American Medical Association in 1959.
okay, 59.
So
Okay.
when he was a teenager, I think 17, he contracted polio, and he heard his doctor, I think, and his mother talking, well, he's not going to see the light of day. Well, he made his mind up to see the light of day, and so he did. And he spent a year basically in a rocking chair being paralyzed. And he watched his little sister learn to walk. And then one day they put him in a rocking chair, which, suppose as the story goes, was not facing the window very well, not giving him a great view. Someone was something or whatever it was.
Okay.
And he really wanted to see more. And at a certain point, he literally started to feel the rocking chair moving, like at least a little bit. And then so over a year, he kept on focusing his attention, and he learned to walk again. Now, he always had some problem with one arm, not being as fully powered. But the next
polio.
year, this is in the 1930s, he took a canoe and canoed across the 5 Great Lakes all by himself.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds ambitious. That sounds ambitious.
Other thing was he was amazing because of that time he spent, right? Amazing, and maybe it was a natural talent, amazing at observing people, right? And the smallest movements within them. He said he could tell when his secretary was pregnant by a change in the pulse or maybe the diameter of her ankle.
Interesting.
And he was the first person who really kind of, before him, hypnosis was much more direct. You'll stop smoking, stop smoking, stop smoking, or whatever the command was. He was the one who started to tell stories.
Well, we are narrative creatures.
Stories that people could connect to in a way, like he wouldn't necessarily always address the problem directly, but indirectly in a way with stories that people could connect to. So I think there was a young boy who had trouble with bedwetting, and he talked to him about learning how to field a baseball and the control of, trapping a ball with your glove, or even learning how to throw a ball. So it's talking about fine motor control, and the boy's brain was able to map that over into this completely different fine motor control of learning how to control his blood. We're learning how to make new connections all the time. Like even a bad habit, right? We keep on applying it. Again, we started all of these, or most of these, in one particular circumstance, in one particular context. And the next time something came up that looked like it, we said, well, we could either do something new or we could try this old thing. I knew it got me some results, so let me try that. And then that kept on happening. And then we kept on expanding it out, good or bad. Well, I keep on getting anxious whenever I meet people. Didn't matter the circumstances, office, social setting, whatever. At a certain point, our brain expanded out to whomever. Or maybe there were some exceptions. Well, I'm with the family.
Yeah. You have been watching Mostly Fictional Tales, and I thank you. But if you like what we do, you can support me in a couple of different ways. Like, share, and subscribe on this video. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it does help a lot. But if you're a real difference maker, head on over to Patreon and support me there. I cannot do this show without you. And in the meantime, I have been your host, Rathgar, and I remind you, be good. But if you can't be good, don't be caught.